Hello and welcome everyone to the first episode of The Next Chapter. I'm Luke Jones and I'm genuinely grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about real stories of transformation, hope and possibility. Now, here you're going to hear honest, relatable stories from all different types of guests. I want to get entrepreneurs on here, sports people, everyday people, normal people, everyone who's got a story. So many people have faced tough times, they made big changes and they've found a way forward. And I want to get them on and inspire you to do the same. It's not just about sobriety and self-improvement. It's about taking action, owning your own story and realizing that you can always start again, no matter where you are in your life. So this show is all going to be about inspiring you with practical strategies, tools for change, from mindset to habits to overcoming challenges, and remind you that you are not alone and there is a way forward. It's all about giving you hope for your own next chapter and that the best is yet to come. So that can be whether you're in your midlife like I am or whether you're just ready for something new. I'm going to be breaking down some real talk, genuine support, and give you the belief that change is possible. So you're in the right place. Over the years, I've worked with so many inspiring people from all different walks of life, and I want to bring them on to share their stories, share tips and tricks about living an inspired life. So before I dive in with some amazing guests, some powerful stories, I want to share my own story, all about where I've come from and why I'm starting this podcast and some of the hope that you're going to get from it. So what was my early life like, my family, and where did my values come from? Looking back on my life, I grew up as one of 4 kids in a family where both parents worked so hard. My mum was self-employed and she ran her own keep fit classes. She had a mobile hairdressing business. She sold, at one point, she even did sell her own fitness clothing brand. She used to do boxercise classes. Both of them, my dad worked as a plumber. Both worked really, really hard, but they were always hustling. They were always buying and selling different things. I remember growing up, we used to breed animals, and I just remember having a house full of pets. They used to breed everything. We always used to have kennels down the bottom of the garden, and there was always a business venture going on. So from a very young age, I learned the value of hard work. As a kid, I was never that good at any team sport. So I was okay at football, but I was always very sporty. I was always good on sports day. I played a lot of rugby, which I really, really loved. But then the big thing that stands out for me growing up and sport is when my dad took me to the boxing gym and I was about 11 years old. And boxing taught me a lot about discipline and about responsibility. I'll never forget my first amateur fight. When the bell rang, it was the loneliest place in the world and there was really nowhere to hide. It was nothing like team sport. In that ring, you've really got to learn to face up to your own responsibilities, and you've got to find that strength inside yourself. And that discipline has definitely stood me in good stead for the rest of my life. I went through school like most kids do, and I come out and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So my dream had always been to be a firefighter. So I did a BTEC National Diploma in Public Services at college for a couple of years, hoping to get into the fire service. I come out of college when I was 18 and I failed at my first attempt to get in the fire service. So I decided, as you do, to get a one-way ticket to Australia at the ripe old age of 18. And I remember I really did have to grow up fast. I remember landing in Melbourne, Australia, and thinking, what the hell have I done? I was on my way to I had relatives in Sydney, but I just remember thinking, what the hell have I done? It was a massive, massive step. And that was my first big step out of my comfort zone. But I spent Christmas with my relatives in Sydney, and then I bought a camper van in Parramatta, which is a suburb town in Sydney. And I did up this camper van and I went all the way around Australia and I fruit picked my way around, and I had the adventure of a lifetime, as you can imagine. I spent about a year there, and then I ended up coming back to the UK via Southeast Asia through Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. Had the time of my life. But that step, that stepping out of my comfort zone, that was a massive learning curve. And that did teach me that initially, when you grow, you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone. And it's going to be lonely. It's going to be hard, a bit like boxing, a bit like stepping into the ring. But the growth, the transformation, and what is on the other side is huge. So again, that stood me in good stead for moving on with my life. And I learned so much about myself when I was traveling, about different cultures, about different people that will come from different parts of the world, different backgrounds. But my biggest takeaway from traveling was my sense of gratitude. During 2 more trips, I traveled to South America for 6 months. And then I met in between my first and second trip, I met my now wife, who was the sister of a good friend of mine at school. And we went to South America together. And then our third trip, we went to India, New Zealand, Pacific Islands, USA, Central America. And I just remember the poverty that we witnessed. It will stick with me forever. And I'll always be so grateful for growing up in the UK. I just remember coming back to the UK after that trip and hearing people moan about the weather, or hearing them moan about healthcare, the traffic, or whatever it might be. I'm thinking, oh my God, go traveling, go to a third world country, see how lucky you are, and you will be forever grateful. I think it's an amazing thing. I now have 2 kids, and I'll always say to them, go traveling, get yourself out there, because it gives you such a huge sense of gratitude. And that's something that I will never, ever forget. So in between traveling, I worked as a laborer on different building sites. My dad was a plumber, and I used to work on different building sites that my dad was working on as a laborer. I even did a stint in Cadbury's chocolate factory where my uncle worked as a mechanic. So I did all sorts of different jobs. When I got back from traveling, after my third big trip, I fell into the construction industry as a plumber working with my dad. And the money was always good, but the hours were long, and I definitely become a workaholic. And I had that work hard, play hard mentality, as so many people do in construction. So over the years, I began to drink more and more and more. First, it was just a social thing, but it's slowly become a coping mechanism for me. That is for sure. That habit grew and grew in my backpacking days as well. I remember, obviously, with backpacking, there's a big party scene. So I was drinking heavily backpacking. And then I remember when I got back from traveling, my responsibilities began to ramp up. We bought a house, we had a mortgage, we had bills, and then of course we had kids as well. So my drinking really did start to pick up. From the outside, as many of us are, I looked fine, but on the inside I was definitely struggling. As the years went on and I approached my midlife, I felt like there was something missing. I remember waking up one morning, hungover as usual, thinking, is this really it? And I felt like for so long that I'd been living my life on autopilot for so many years, decades even. And I knew that I just had more to give. I felt like I wasn't living up to my potential. And that is where my self-development journey really began. I think I must have been about 40, 41. I remember seeing an ad on Facebook about affiliate marketing and getting into the online space in the digital world. And my eyes really lit up. And I just remember thinking, wow, maybe this is something that I could do. So I got into that. I started a side hustle, started working as an affiliate marketer. And during that time, I had some coaching one-on-one. That's the transformation. That was when I saw that coaching really could change someone's life. For years as well, I worked with a lot of young apprentices through plumbing on different building sites. And I could see the difference and the change that I could make in these young lads' life. And a lot of them come from troubled backgrounds. And I remember through their work, they found meaning and purpose. And I was helping them so much in their journey. And I knew that I could make a difference. And that gave me the confidence to go into coaching. And that's something that I find so powerful now. It's been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. And now through my own transformation and my own sobriety journey, I help others go alcohol free and thrive to their full potential and be the role models that their kids deserve. So sobriety has been one hell of a journey for me. Like I said, when I woke up that one morning, hungover in my is I knew something had to change. I was just fed up living on autopilot. I was working so hard. I was exhausted. I was drinking to unwind. I felt stuck. I felt disconnected from my potential, as so many young men do. I first tested sobriety with a couple of different trips to rugby at Twickenham and to watching the diets, the PDC diets. Rugby has always been a massive piss up. We used to go up on the train to Twickenham, drinking bottles of port and drinking cans of lager. And I remember saying to my wife one day, I'm going to go sober. And she was like, can I go sober to Twickenham? I was like, yeah, we'll take the kids. We'll go up as a family. Because I was becoming sober curious. So many people in the self-development. But as I was working as an affiliate marketer, I met so many different people in the online space, and they were going sober and they were getting so much more done in their business. They were getting so much more out of life. They had more time, they had more clarity, they had more energy. And I was like, yeah, I want a bit of that. I just, drinking wasn't doing it anymore for me. I was in the beginning, what seemed like a bit of fun just become this mundane, really, really bad habit. And I felt so bad as I got into my self development and I got into being healthy, changing my diet. I was noticing that my REM sleep, which is our recovery sleep, was terrible. My heart rate variability was like I was ill. And I'm there thinking, what is affecting this? Why can't I sleep properly? Why have I got anxiety? I used to suffer terribly with panic attacks. I used to suffer really bad with anxiety. And I've now learned that it was pretty much, most of it was down to drinking. Since I've quit drinking, I've been sober now for over a year. I haven't had any anxiety, not one little bit. All of it pretty much was down to having that anxiety. I've learned so much. I've read so many books now on going sober, on what alcohol does to your body physiologically. And it's been a massive eye opener for me. I knew that I just wasn't living up to my potential and it was holding me back in so many ways. I remember going to Twickenham, still enjoying the game, remembering every kick of the game and thinking, wow, that was my first bit of evidence. I could go sober, have a good time, enjoy myself, come back. I could remember everything. I thought, wow, you haven't got to drink alcohol to have a good time. And that is a massive limiting belief that so many people have. The same with the darts in Blackpool. I used to go to the darts, watch the PDC, watch all my heroes and get absolutely obliterated like so many people do at the darts. It's one big party, right? But again, I took my family there and we had a great time. I remember I even high-fived Michael Van Gerwen on his walkout. We had a great time. I remembered everything. I used to go before and I remember watching Phil Taylor. Well, that's the problem. I don't remember watching Phil Taylor because I was pissed. I actually do remember spilling a load of my beers when I was jumping up and doing the Mexican wave once, but I can't really remember much of that time that we went. And anyway, these little things, these little seeds were being planted. And I was thinking, God, I can actually have a good time sober and I can remember everything and I haven't got to be pissed and I can still have fun because that is a massive limiting belief that when we go sober, we're going to be boring and we're not going to have fun. But wow, how wrong is that belief? So this was all the evidence that I needed to go sober in the end. I remember when I was traveling as well, one of the big realizations was when we went to India on my third trip with me and my wife, and we couldn't get any alcohol. Northern India they don't drink much. They drink a lot more in Kerala and Goa in the south of India, but in Northern India, they don't. And we couldn't find any booze. And I was just like, what? Where's the pub? Why can't we get any alcohol? We went to the supermarkets. We couldn't buy any drink. And we had to get ushered. We went to a restaurant and I asked, and it was all like, oh, come with me, follow me. It was all like really strange. And we had to cover the alcohol bottles up. Someone found us some Cobra or Kingfisher lager. And it was really, I was like, wow, I have got a drink problem. That was one of the big realizations. I was in my early 20s then. When we went to New Zealand, we were in New Zealand for a year. And I remember we drank every day. We used to drink lager all week. And then on the weekend, we used to drink a lot of gin. And I remember coming back and just thinking, wow, I drank every bloody day on this trip and trying to settle back into life here and find a job as a plumber and not drink every day. And I was just like, wow. And then I got those responsibilities, the mortgage, the kids, the bills, and it just ramped up and up and up. And I knew my everyday patterns were affecting my work, my relationships, and my sense of self. Things had to change. all these things were happening. So many people ask me, why did I go sober? Why did I move to the Isle of Man? We now live in the Isle of Man. We live in Bristol. And there's never one reason for these big monumental changes. I don't think there's never really a true rock bottom. So people that say to me about the Isle of Man, why did you move to the Isle of Man? Is it because I love motorbikes? Is it because it's so safe? Is it because it's beautiful? Is it because the people are amazing? Is it because it's untouched? And it really is all of all of those things. It is my happy place. I absolutely love it here. Moving to the Isle of Man was always a dream, and it came true. Living by the sea, in the beauty, the nature, the fresh air, the big open spaces. But I didn't get sober before we moved here. I actually got sober after settling here. I remember waking up in bed one Sunday morning with another banging headache and a dry mouth here just after we moved. We moved in September. I went sober in December. And just like I was saying about my heart rate before, my heart rate variability, my heart rate was going through the roof. And I wonder how much money I spent in the pub last night. I kept on saying, oh, I only used to go out on a Friday for a few beers. And I remember looking at my bank and thinking, shit, I've had about 10 pints last night. And my wife told me, I remember waking up and talking to my wife, and she used to say all the time, you've told me this last night, Luke. You're repeating yourself again. You've already said this. That was the real wake up call for me as well. When my son asked me, Dad, are you an alcoholic? When I went to get another beer at the fridge. And I remember shutting the fridge door, and he was stood there looking at me, and he said, Dad, are you an alcoholic? That was massive for me. I used to get him to get me cans of beer when I was on the sofa watching telly. And when he brought them to me, I used to say, this is why you have children, and laughed. And I was just like, shit, I look back at those times now and I think, what the hell were you saying? That was the moment that I realized as well that I just couldn't keep living on autopilot. I had to take responsibility for my life and my family. I was just living in all these bad habits, and I knew things had to change. To add to that, my parents' relationship as well, that broke down due to drink and drugs. That had a big role in my sobriety, for sure. Seeing what alcohol has done to my family and other people that are really close to me. It's a painful lesson of what happens if you don't address these things, if you don't nip them in the bud, if you let them keep on manifesting and growing. And this is what can happen. People will say to me, Luke, you're being dramatic. You were never that bad. But they don't know what was going on in my head, and they didn't know what I was going through. I could see myself going down that same path, and I didn't want it anymore. Then another big thing was losing my father-in-law just before we come here to the Isle of Man. That was a big reminder of how precious life is. He was 70, but he had only just retired at 69. And he wasn't an alcoholic. He didn't have any drink problems, but he was a healthy guy. He was always full of life. Graham, he was a top bloke, and he got cancer. And within a year, he was dead. And it was absurd. I could not believe it. I couldn't get over it. How someone so fit and healthy could be taken so quickly. And I think after that happened, I just don't want to, we only get one body, one vessel. Someone said to me at the time, I remember by this time I was listening to audiobooks all the time on the way to work. I was listening to podcasts. And I remember someone said, if you were given one car for the rest of your life, how would you treat it? I remember hearing that. I was like, holy shit. And that is what our body is like. Our body we only get one body, one vessel to carry us through, and we neglect it. And I thought, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to quit alcohol. And it's been transformational for me. So all of these different moments, they were stacking up. And I realized that I had to change, not just for myself, but for everyone that I care about. And my journey with sobriety and my journey of moving to the Isle of Man has been for so many different reasons. There are so many, I can't put my finger on one, but I really don't believe you have to hit a rock bottom for this sort of stuff to happen. You can take all these little things and they can all build up, and you can make real change. You haven't got to hit that rock bottom. So a big part of my self-development journey has been manifestation. Manifestation gets such a bad rap, but for me, it's all about energy and belief. I meditate every single morning now, and I did it for a year before we moved to the Isle of Man. There were so many things going wrong with our move here. Houses fell through on this side when we were trying to buy. Houses fell through when we moved here in the UK. So many things were telling me not to go. The universe really, really tested us. Most people would have given up, but I knew it was meant to be. I seen all the signs, all the synchronicities. Through the meditations, I'd seen our life here. I'd seen how great it could be. I created such a strong vision in my meditations through visualization. And I knew that me and my family were destined to be here. I never lost track of the goal and nothing was going to stop me. So here we are now. After my wake up call in my 40s, I completely transformed my health, my habits, and my mindset. Now, every morning at 6 a.m., I'm up, I'm running, I'm taking a cold plunge, showering, have a healthy breakfast. Discipline is the highest form of self love. And that is a muscle that you can keep building and growing. And it filters into every area of your life. Every evening now, I journal for what I'm grateful for. And I set an intention for the next day. I meditate every day. I practice breath work. I journal regularly. These practices have given me the clarity, the energy, and the sense of control that I never had before. As I mentioned before, with my apprentices as a plumber, that showed me the impact that I could have on somebody else's life. That experience planted the seed in me for coaching, for giving back. My own transformation made me want to help others unlock their potential. So I started training as a coach and I have never looked back. Now I'm fully accredited by the ICF as a life coach and I'm a NLP master practitioner. NLP has shown me how much our thoughts, words, and beliefs directly impact the way that we act and the results that we get. I've worked with so many different clients now, and I always describe how these NLP tools and techniques can help you rewrite your beliefs, your thoughts, and your patterns. Thoughts are going to affect our choices, our habits, and affect our routines. Simple shifts in perspective can open up new paths for you and your life. For me, the real breakthrough was noticing how the way I used to speak to myself, language is so important. Things you would never speak to yourself like that. You always need to speak to yourself like you're your best friend. I used to say, I never get things right. And I was actually always reinforcing these bad habits. When I started catching those faults and consciously choosing more supportive language, talking to myself better, everything changed. And I began to build confidence and momentum, one shift at a time. I remember one of my current clients used to say, for example, alcohol makes everything better. Everything's better with alcohol. So you can straight away, that's a limiting belief. That means you've got to have a drink when you go out. So we'll reframe that. We'll dive into that. We'll say, right, okay, where's your evidence for that? Does it really make everything better? Because that was a belief that he believed subconsciously in his unconscious mind. He believed that, and that was affecting his habits, his routines. So you reframe it, you break it down, and you say, well, that is not true. That's something that you've held to be true, and it's affected everything up till now. So you change that, you change the script, you change your identity from someone who drinks every day or every week, or someone who needs to drink when they go out, to someone who doesn't, to a sober person, to someone who doesn't need alcohol to have a good time. And that can be the catalyst, real change. And so next time you find yourself with a limited thought, you've got to pause and ask, is this really true? What would I say to a friend in this situation? Because we never speak to ourselves like we do a friend. We beat ourselves up all the time. You'll be surprised how quickly that mindset can change. And you can start talking to yourself with a bit more kindness and a bit more belief. So why have I started this podcast, and what can you expect over the coming weeks, months? Podcasts have changed my life. Like I said earlier, with audiobooks as well, all the self-development that I've done over the years now, for about the last 3 years. Hearing honest stories and practical strategies have inspired me to believe in what is possible. And now I want to give back. I want to help anyone that feels stuck and wants to grow. And I want to build that supportive community. And I want this show to be all about action, ownership, and reaching your full potential, whatever that looks like. And honestly, I want to keep learning from the amazing people that I will be interviewing. I want to keep growing myself. So there is a selfish element to it as well, but I know I can help myself and I can help others at the same time. And I can help the people, the guests that I'm going to have on, spread what they want to give to the world as well. So it's a win-win for everyone. I want to share this journey with you guys. This isn't just about sobriety and self-improvement, which have been massive pillars for my transformation. It's about real people, real stories, and real tools for change. You'll hear from all different types of guests, like I said earlier, entrepreneurs, I want to get some athletes on, people into sports. I want to get everyday people on as well. I want to get people from all different walks of life who have got a story to tell, because everyone's got a story. Everybody has got a relatable story that can help and inspire other people. So whether you're here to be inspired, whether you want practical strategies, you've got to remember, guys, you're not alone and you're in the right place. So thank you so much for joining me on my first episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to my story and how I've got here and why I'm starting this podcast. Like I said, I'd love to hear your story too. Please reach out if you'd like to come on the podcast and have a chat and inspire other people, because trust me, you will. If you've got a story, which everyone has, then you can help and inspire other people. I really want to drive that home. This is all about making real impact with this podcast and giving you hope and inspiration that you can change at any point in your life. Your midlife doesn't have to be the end. It can be the start of something really special, and it can be the start of your next chapter. Thanks for listening, guys.